Today marks the return of Mr. Richie Rich versus Jimmy No Bread, but this time we're at Manchester United, where we're going to be testing out two different transfer signing methods. Signing Wonderkids, having a budget less than 50 million over 3 years, or lots of money, £350 million per season being spent, amounting to £1 billion over 3 years. Can we finally compete with the likes of Manchester City? Which rebuild is going to do better? Are we going to sign two new big names and the whole team is going to fold, or are we just not going to have that quality and the youngsters coming up aren't quite going to be of the level we need them to be? Grab yourself some popcorn. It's cheap versus expensive Manchester United rebuild. For both sides of the rebuild, Manchester United will be starting in the Europa League, so no Champions League football when it's in a completely realistic database. So I'm excited to see what we can do from Europa League. Can we win it all with both sides? And we are going to be kicking things off here today with the cheap team. We have just a £15 million budget and £300,000 in the wage budget. So not a lot of money. And I have gone and made a tactic that I'm very happy with, that we're looking to use here at Manchester United in both of the rebuilds. If it's cheap or expensive, same tactic. So it's purely down to the transfers, the cheap versus expensive element. Now you can see in this team and on the bench, we have made the squad what it can be. And there's a few players here which we're going to have to keep around because simply our budget is not big enough. Now I am going to be semi-realistic in this one and look to try and get rid of Rafa Varane and Casemiro and try and replace them. So Onana in goal, Diogo Dalot as our starting right back. We need a brand new centre back to partner Lisandro Martinez. Luke Shaw left back. Mainu is going to be locked in to an anchorman role on his own as a single pivot, as we're looking to use Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes in front as a Roman playmaker and a box-to-box midfielder. Garnacho has a starting berth at right wing, Rashford on left wing and Højlund up front. But the backups is where we've had to make some big decisions and keep some players around. Bayindir in goal, Wan-Bissaka, no brand new right back, Maguire and Lindelof still at the club, and Malacia as the backup left back. I am looking for a brand new young CDM and centre mid to partner Scott McTominay, because yes, he's staying at the club, so's Anthony, and so's Jadon Sancho. Now, I'm not Eric Ten Hag. I think Sancho can stay at this club. We are doing this in a universe where this is a brand new manager. This is Jimmy No Bread, and Sancho and Jimmy No Bread get on. And we'll be looking to utilise Sancho here at Manchester United, and he hasn't had the end of his career just yet. We are looking for a brand new backup striker as well. So overall, a brand new starting centre-back, two backup midfielders, and a backup striker. Is it possible less than 15 million? It's going to be hard. Well, as always, it is always worth mentioning the money we do bring in from the transfers out means absolutely nothing because we have got a £15 million budget. So we have sold Casemiro, Eriksen, Hannibal, Maguire, Van der Beek, Pellistri have all left. Rafa Varane hasn't left, and that's simply because we couldn't have signed a centre-back that could come in and start confidently. We have brought in a brand new backup centre-back, and that is Jose Marsa. 2.9 million from FC Andorra. Apparently, a good League One centre-back. I think, based on his stats as a young left-sided centre-back, he could be very good. And I'm looking for him to come in and be the backup to Lisandro Martinez. And you never know, in a few years' time, we could get him as a starting centre-back. And our backup CDM to back up Kobe Mainu is Marko Stamenic. Now, if you've watched the Moneyball rebuilds on the channel before, this guy comes up ahead of a lot because he is actually absolutely fantastic. He's 22 years of age, a New Zealand international, and yes, he's not Manchester United quality, but he's 22, he's young, he can grow, and he's only got to back up the greatest English centre midfielder we have got in our ranks at the moment. So it should be fine. And to back up Bruno Fernandes, we're looking at Lamine Camara as well. Another one I have signed previously in Wonderkid rebuilds. This guy is brilliant. From FC Metz, 20 years of age, 14 caps for Senegal already, is absolutely outstanding and always progresses into a superstar midfielder. So for just £7 million, it was an absolute bargain, but not quite as much of a bargain as Alan Obando. Now this man I have never heard of or never seen in my life. He has 16 dribbling, 14 finishing, 14 first touch, 16 determination, great pace, 6'2", consistent, 18 years of age, and he cost us £500,000. Absolutely wild, and we spent just £12.5 million in this window. So we've actually got ourselves £2.5 million in the locked away transfer kitty. So potentially next season we can spend 17.5. But 4 players have been brought in, and I know what you're thinking. There's no way they're Manchester United quality, but they're into the squad, and only one player comes into the starting 11. And actually, no, they don't, because Varane keeps his spot at the back. Onana in goal, Dalot, Varane, Martinez, Shaw, Mainu, Bruno, Mount, Garnacho, Rashford, and Højlund. But the backups, we've added a bit of youth in there, a bit of pizzazz. Bayindi, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Marsa, Malacia, Staminic, Kamara, McTominay, Anthony, Sancho, and Obando. I think this is the thing that maybe is going to happen with Sir Jim Ratcliffe. We're going to go and find some really hidden wonder kids that no one's heard of. They come into the squad and they all surprise us. And the opposite of this is the expensive rebuild, where if we did get Sheikh Jassim, we spent £350 million summer, and maybe it's just an absolute chaos. So let's see what we need to do over there. Well, as mentioned, we've got £300 million to spend and a big old wage budget as well. So signing players is going to be lots of fun. And because of that, it means I'm more open to getting more positions in the squad and improving them. So Onana in goal is going to keep his position for this season. I'm looking for a superstar right back, a superstar centre back. Martinez and Luke Shaw stay in the team. Mainu still in that CDM role. Bruno Fernandes as the right centre mid, but I'm looking for a brand new box-to-box midfielder. And the front three I'm actually keeping as Garnacho, Rashford, and Højlund, because I want to get pretty much a new backup 11. Bayindi and Dalot are going to stay, but I want two brand new centre backs. I want a brand new left back, and I want a brand new DM to back up Mainu. I'm keeping Mount and McTominay as our backup midfielders, and I'm keeping Ahmad as our backup right winger to Garnacho. But I need a new left winger, I need a new striker, and I've got no one else that I'm looking to keep. Casemiro, Anthony, Eriksen, Maguire, Wan-Bissaka. We're looking to sell them all. This is true clear the house and spend lots of money. So that's exactly what we did. Varane, Casemiro, Malacia, Eriksen, Lindelof, Maguire, Donny, Facundo Palestri all left the glove, and we raised £164 million. Now, I don't care about that because we've got £350 million to go and spend. So our brand new attacking left back is Alex Grimaldo, Spanish, 28 years of age, has just had one of the best seasons we have ever seen from a fullback in real life over at Bayer Leverkusen with Xabi Alonso. He's unbelievable going forward, but the best thing about him, he's also quite good at defending as well. He's going to be brilliant, he's consistent, and he loves big matches. And I mean, it was only right to bring in his best bub, Jeremy Frimpong, on the right-hand side. So we've gone and got the Bayer Leverkusen wing-backs, and this guy, we know he's absolutely brilliant. Even better going forward, not quite as good defensively, but hopefully we can get a nice staggered defence so we can have a very attacking wing-backs. Mainu can sit in the middle, and Martinez and Jean-Claire Todibo can sit there and defend like absolute rocks. We've been heavily linked to Todibo in real life, so he's the signing I've gone for to partner Martinez. Our backup DM, we're signing Yuri Rega. This has been a signing from FC24 for just £7.5 million, but we have got Kobe Mainu, and there's no point in trying to replace the best, so we'll bring in a wonder kid to give him some good backups. Speaking of good backups, Benjamin Sesko, again someone we've been heavily linked to in real life to rotate with Rasmus Højlund, and it's a dream scenario of having Benjamin Sesko and Højlund up front, both in their early 20s, both absolute bagsmen, both big, strong, quick, attacking strikers, and Ben Sesko is going to be simply brilliant in this rebuild. As is João Neves. I couldn't help myself. He's absolutely brilliant, and again, linked to Manchester United in real life, probably going to be too expensive. But he's brilliant. He's extremely consistent. He's good mates with his boy Bruno Fernandes, and building that little Portuguese chemistry at the club in that midfield. 19 years of age. This guy's been an absolute standout this season at Benfica and has burst onto the scene out of nowhere and looks simply incredible. And you can say very similar things for Jared Branthwaite over at Everton. So he's also joined Manchester United. Todibo and Branthwaite, that's two very good centre-backs coming in. So there's going to be lots and lots of rotation. Branthwaite, obviously English, loves big matches, extremely consistent, and an incredible centre-back. And finally, just two wonder kids to join the club. Rayan Cherki is number one, signed from Olympic Lyon. Incredible flair, incredible dribbling, incredible technique. Not quite as good as what we were expecting, but a very good wonder kid to come in and back up Rashford, Garnacho. We don't need anyone incredible. And finally, it's Aaron Anselminho, a young Argentinian centre-back who's playing over at Boca Juniors, who again, Manchester United are linked to in real life, and he looks absolutely brilliant. On FM, not quite looking as good, but he's got high potential. He's 19 years of age, and he looks fantastic. And the team, well, it looks very, very different. Onana in goal, Frimpong, Branthwaite, Martinez, and Grimaldo as the back four. Mainu, Fernandes, João Neves, Garnacho, Rashford, and Højlund. The backup, it looks so much better. Bayindi, Dalot, Todibo, Anselminho, Luke Shaw, Rega, Mason Mount, McTominay, Amad Diallo, Rayan Cherki, and Benjamin Sesko. I am expecting to win every single competition that is sitting in front of us here. The Premier League, the Europa League is an absolute must. The FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. In the Premier League, based on the signings we have made, we're expected to come 7th. Which I think is absolutely ridiculous. I think we've made some brilliant signings. We have spent a lot of money. We spent 260 million plus the 67, so around 330, making our billion looking extremely likely. Let's get into how this expensive team does in season 1. Well, obviously we were predicted to come down in 7th, and based on our start, I think we've had a great start. We beat Southampton, beat Arsenal, drew to Liverpool, and drew to Fulham. So unbeaten in August before facing Manchester City in September and losing 1-0. Drawing to Chelsea, but beating Newcastle. So far, playing Arsenal, Liverpool, City, Chelsea and Newcastle and not having an awful start. So we're going to go on a fantastic run of form. Drawing to Brentford, beating Wolves, beating Notts Forest. We drew to Aston Villa before beating Ipswich, Bournemouth, Leicester, Spurs. Drawing to Everton, beating West Ham, Palace and Brighton and losing to Arsenal 5-0 on the 29th of December. But that wraps up the first half of the season and just 2 losses when we were sitting very good. And obviously during this time as well, we were in the Carabao Cup. We beat Millwall, beat Chelsea, beat Brentford, and over 2 legs we managed to get through Liverpool as well, setting up a Carabao Cup final against Spurs. We were looking to attempt to lift our first trophy in either rebuilds, and Mason Mount fined Garnacho, and then an unbelievable own goal. I don't quite know what happened there, but it is what it is. Grimaldo whips it in and Scott McTominay heads it past Vicario, and that was 2-0, and the Carabao Cup was Manchester United's. But before we see if we can win any other competition, back into the Premier League, and January we bounced back from that 5-0 Arsenal defeat with a 5-0 victory over Southampton, beating Liverpool 4-1 and Fulham 3-1. And then losing 3 in a row to Chelsea, City and Newcastle. We beat Brentford, drew to Wolves, beat Forest, beat Bournemouth, and then again went without winning in 3 games, losing to Villa and Spurs, drawing to Leicester. We beat Everton, Ipswich, lost to West Ham and beat Crystal Palace and Brighton to finish the season off. It was certainly a good season, but the losses in the second half wouldn't have helped. We ended up actually finishing down in 5th place, and luckily, due to our UEFA coefficient rankings, we managed to get into the top 5 and Champions League football. We were just 12 points off the league with Manchester City, but to think that's with spending £350 million. We had no one in the top goal scorers chart other than Rasmus Højlund in 4th on 19, nearly half the way behind Erling Haaland. In terms of player of the matches, no one. Assists, Bruno Fernandes right at the bottom, even behind Bruno Guimaraes, who is the 2nd best Bruno in the league at assisting. But could we win more trophies? From the FA Cup, we got off to a brilliant start, beating Notts County, Stoke and Fulham before losing in the quarterfinals to Arsenal 1-0 thanks to a Gabriel Jesus goal. And in the Europa League, well, things were very good over here. We had the Europa League phase for the first time in history. We beat Braga, Sevilla, Sevestia, drew to Genk, beat Bilbao, drew to Copenhagen, beat Ferencváros, but drew our last 2 games against Brest and Valencia, and then we did get into the top 8. But Newcastle were on top and were looking like favourites for the Europa League. Lucky enough, in the round of 16, we got drawn up against Bologna. So the first leg we won 4-0 and the second leg was 4-2. So we're flying straight into the quarterfinals against the Europa League favourites, Newcastle. Where in the first leg at Old Trafford, we got off to a brilliant start. Mason Mount driving down the left-hand side finds Rasmus Højlund in the box in just 16 minutes to make it 1-0. Lisandro Martinez then finds another ball out wide to Mason Mount, who's having a great season off that left-hand side. A deflection in the box falls to João Neves. 2-0 at Old Trafford. We just had to go away to St James's Park and keep this lead. Now, what I didn't mean by that was in the 36th minute to concede a goal to Anthony Gordon thanks to an Onana mistake. Luckily, that was it, and we were off to the semi-finals. We're away from home against Athletic Bilbao. They got a red card and we won 3-0. And at home, a Marcus Rashford 5th minute goal made it 1-0, and we were into the Europa League final. And it was this year's Champions League semi-finalists Borussia Dortmund that stood in our way, and that man Nicholas Füllkrug got them 1-0 up in just 4 minutes. Luckily, we're going to have a big boy get a header ourselves, Jean-Claire Todibo, 1-1 in 12 minutes. What you'll be shocked to hear is we are now in extra time. Nothing happened from then until now. Scott McTominay finds the ball to Amad Diallo. A fantastic finish for 2-1 in the 97th minute before in the 115th, Alex Grimaldo is going to score to make it 3-1 to Manchester United, and we're going to lift the Europa League as well as the Premier League this season. Is that successful after spending 350 million? No, it's not, because we didn't win the Premier League. I'm absolutely tripping. We won the Carabao Cup and the Europa League. So realistically, 2 semi-major competitions won, £350 million spent. Can we do better over on the cheap side of things? Well, this season it looked like playing against the smaller teams was going to go great. But maybe the big boys, we were going to get battered. We beat Southampton and Fulham, but lost to Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester City and Chelsea. We did beat Newcastle, drew to Brentford, beat Wolves and Forest, but not the greatest of starts. We carried on that amazing run though, beating Villa, beating Ipswich and drawing to Bournemouth. And in December, things were also quite good, beating Leicester, Everton, West Ham, beat Manchester City 2-0 at Old Trafford, lost 3-1 to Crystal Palace, beat Brighton 6-0 and drew 2-2 with Arsenal. Not a bad start, but certainly not the greatest. And well, we couldn't even blame it on Carabao Cup fixture congestion, because in the first leg, we lost to Brentford. But luckily, the second half of the season was much better. We beat Southampton, lost to Liverpool, drew to Fulham, beat Chelsea, lost to Newcastle, but from here out, we were fantastic. We beat Spurs 5-0, Brentford 3-2, drew to Wolves, beat Forest, Villa, Ipswich and Bournemouth before drawing to Leicester, losing to Spurs. But the last 4 games of the season, beating Everton, beating West Ham, beating Crystal Palace and beating Brighton, meant in the Premier League, we'd actually done better than we had on the expensive team, finishing in 4th place on 78 points, which I believe is 2 points better off than the expensive team, and we spent just £12.5 million. Still, 19 goals for Rasmus Højlund, which is pretty interesting, and 11 assists for Bruno Fernandes, so the system has done the exact same, which is interesting to see. 5 player matches for Marcus Rashford, but certainly not groundbreaking. But I think we've done very well, given the fact we've sold a lot of older players, brought in a few youngsters, and I think things have had a good change. But could we lift a trophy this season? It wasn't going to be the FA Cup, as we did beat Chelsea, but got knocked out to Brighton in the 4th round replay. So it all came down to the Europa League, where we drew to Sporting, lost to Union Berlin, beat Legia and Slovan Bratislava before losing to AZ Alkmaar. We had to win our last 3 games to get in to the top 8 in the Europa League phase. We beat Başakşehir, beat Brest and beat KRC Genk to sneak into 4th position yet again. But Newcastle were favourites and top again. Are we going to have to knock them out? Well, we shall see. First of all, Maccabi Haifa are the team we have to beat. 6-3 in the first leg and 3-1 in the second, meant after a 9-4 aggregate, we were into the quarterfinals. We're in leg number 1, just like in real life, Manchester United have lost to Galatasaray 4-3. But you bring it back to Old Trafford, and what didn't happen in real life is we beat them. We beat them 5-1 here, a brace from Scott McTominay, goals from Varane, Garnacho, and that youngster, Alan Obando, meant a 5-1 victory, and we're into the semi-finals. And it was now Newcastle that stood in our way, but things didn't go well in the first leg. Alex Isak scored to make it 1-0 before a second goal was going to go in, a Dan Burns screamer. And to make things even worse, the third is going to go to Newcastle as well, and it's going to be Angel Di Maria, which just feels like rubbing salt into the wound. Luckily, we've got our very own tricky Argentinian, and his name is Alejandro Garnacho. He's going to go and score to make it 3-1 and give us a glimmer of hope at Old Trafford, where a Bruno Fernandes penalty in the 47th minute got us just a goal behind before we're going to get level on terms. Luke Shaw finds the ball into the box. It's cleared back to Luke Shaw. He finds Rasmus Højlund, and he takes it to extra time, where in the 118th minute, there was a hero of the expensive rebuild in Amad Diallo. He's going to be the hero here too. He scores and we're into the final, where Marcus Rashford scores from the spot in the 40th minute. And that's it. 1 goal is all it takes. We beat Fiorentina 1-0 and we do lift a trophy in this season. It's the Europa League. It's okay. Champions League football next year. We're looking for the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. But remember, we have just a £15 million budget. And well, because of that lack of budget, there is only a couple of places I'm looking to improve. A brand new centre-back to partner Sandro Martinez and a brand new winger. And overall, I was very impressed with how people played in this season. Rasmus Højlund, 26 goals. Marcus Rashford, 15 and 10. And Scott McTominay came up, 12 goals and 8 assists as a fantastic rotational option. Garnacho, 11 and 4. Bruno Fernandes, 11 goals and 17 assists. And my favourite signing of all, over cheap and expensive, Alan Obando, 6 starts, 8 off the bench and 9 goals. £500,000 is all he cost us, and he was brilliant. Jadon Sancho, also very decent, 9 goals, 8 assists, 44 games. His United career is well and truly back on track, and we're looking to keep him for the rest of this rebuild. Mason Mount grabbing 14 assists as well, incredibly impressive, as does Luke Shaw. But how about the expensive team? Well, over here, there's a lot more money to spend and a lot more issues to fill, as we actually had a worse season. So a brand new goalkeeper, a brand new centre-back to partner Sandro Martinez, a brand new CDM making Kobbie Mainoo a backup, and a brand new central midfielder, as well as a brand new right winger, and making Garnacho a backup winger. Well, more of a rotational option. In terms of the actual output in the season, Rasmus Højlund was fantastic, 33 goals, and we found a backup striker which would come in and do a great job as well in Benjamin Sesko with 23. Rashford 19 and 14. Garnacho 16 and 7. And the only issue we're going to have in this expensive land is that, are we going to sign too many players? I alluded to it at the start. Is there going to be too many chefs in the kitchen? As Garnacho had a great season, but we're looking to make him a rotation because we've got to spend the money. Bruno Fernandes 13 and 16. Mason Mount 14 assists yet again. And McTominay, even as a backup here, 6 goals, 10 assists, just below a 7 average rating. He's not even in the squad and is looking to be sold. Our 2 fullbacks, Dalot and Frimpong, both getting 11 assists. Luke Shaw getting 9. And Alex Grimaldo with only 4 assists and 8 starts, and was the backup to Luke Shaw. So there's certainly some openings to do in this team, certainly a lot of improvements, but are we going to get too many players? Well, we are going to make some pretty big signings, and we are going to bring in a brand new goalkeeper. Diogo Costa comes in to go number 1 ahead of Andre Onana. Yerry Pino comes in to battle on that right wing with Alejandro Garnacho. 2 fantastic young wingers going for that 1 spot. It's going to be an exciting battle. Antonio Silva comes into centre-back to battle with Todibo. Again, 2 fantastic young centre-backs going for 1 position. He's an unbelievable signing for just £50 million. As is João Felix. In my opinion, this is a great signing. Now, he didn't smash it over at Chelsea, but for just £45.5 million, we're going to be looking to revive João Felix's career. And we're looking to take João Palhinha's career to the next level and make him a Champions League level central defence midfielder. I'm hoping João Palhinha can add that little bit of fight, that little bit of steel in CDM, rather than the ball playing ability of Kobbie Mainoo. With our 2 very attacking wing backs, I'm looking for him to add that defensive steel into our central defensive midfield spot. And our final signing is Edison, a young Brazilian central midfielder signed from Atalanta, coming in to be a rotational option with Mason Mount. He's extremely consistent, he likes big matches, and he's absolutely brilliant as a box-to-box midfielder, which is exactly where Mount was playing last season. And our team, well, I think it looks fantastic. Diogo Costa, Frimpong, Antonio Silva, Lisandro Martinez, Luke Shaw, João Neves is going to go into DM for now, with Bruno Fernandes, Edison, Yerry Pino, Rashford and Højlund. But obviously, we're not looking that first 11 in, as our backups are so good. Onana, Dalot, Branthwaite, Todibo, Grimaldo, Palhinha, Mainoo, Mount, Garnacho, João Felix and Benjamin Sesko. We have spent a grand total of around £700 million and built an absolute super team. We've got £15 million to spend on the cheap side of things. Can we improve it at all? Well, just 3 signings have been made, and number 1 is Serdar Saci, a Turkish centre-back signed from Braga. I think this guy is actually very, very good. Strong on his right foot, 16 tackling, great determination. It's given me a little bit of Nemanja Vidic vibes, an aggressive, tall, big centre-back who I'm looking to come in next to Lisandro Martinez and dominate our defence. I've signed Matić Sin for £4.5 million. He's actually going back on loan out to Banik Ostrava. This guy looks absolutely brilliant, and simply, I didn't need him this season, so I thought I'd spend the money rather than wait till next season and get him back out on loan. Hopefully next season he can come in as a rotation option in midfield. And finally, the backup winger I've signed for just £1 million is Yerson Chacon. Great dribbling, great determination, great pace, consistent. £1 million is all we spent on him from Deportivo Tashira. And the transfers, well, we've only spent 11.75, and even one of them has come in and gone out on loan. So far, £24 million has been spent, and the team is looking very similar to what it does in real life, but I think it looks good in terms of the youngsters. Onana, Dallo, Satachi, Martinez, Shaw, Mainu, Bruno, Mount, Garnacho, Højlund and Rashford leading the line. Bayindir, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Jose Marsa, Malacia, Staminic, Lamine Camara, McTominay, Yerson Chacon, Jadon Sancho and Alan Obando. And the best thing about it here is we are also progressing players from the youth academy. So Finley McAllister, Dan Gore, Amad Diallo, Shea Lacey and Jack Fitzgerald are all in the first team as well. So could any of them come in and be standouts for us? You'll have to wait and see. Season number 2 for the cheap team. Can we improve on 4th place and the Europa League? Well, with after just £12 million spent, but hopefully some progression to our Wonderkids, could we make their next step? Well, we did beat Brighton and Chelsea to kick the season off before losing to Spurs, Manchester City and Liverpool. The exact same problem that happened last season. We can beat some of the smaller teams, but the big boys are going to beat us. We beat Norwich, we lost to Palace, we beat Brentford, beat Newcastle, beat Burnley, lost to Bournemouth and beat Southampton, and an absolutely awful December, losing 2, drawing 2 and winning 2. And we could potentially blame it on the Carabao Cup. We beat West Brom on penalties, beat Brentford, beat Southampton on penalties, and we got to the semi-finals against Chelsea and lost the first leg 1-0 thanks to a goal from Jimmy J Morgan, and the second leg 1-0 thanks to a goal from Romelu Lukaku at Old Trafford. So we really had to turn our season around for the second half, and losing to Chelsea at the start of January wasn't helpful. We did beat Brighton and Spurs, but lost to Liverpool before beating Manchester City 5-2. That always feels good. And then backed it up with a draw against Everton and a loss to Norwich. That doesn't feel quite as good. We did beat Palace, Brentford, Burnley, drew to Newcastle, beat Bournemouth, lost to Southampton, but in the final 6 games of the season, won 5 and drew just 1. So you're probably guessing it's not the greatest of seasons. Well, a very, very compact Premier League table means we do get in the Champions League again, and we're just 7 points away from the top of the league. And remember, this is while spending just £24 million in 2 seasons, clearing out a lot of the older players, and you know, it's a difficult rebuild. Players in the Premier League are extremely good, and we're signing players that are good enough for League One with potential to one day get to the Premier League. So I think we're doing a very good job. Bruno Fernandes top of the assist charts with 15. Overall, a pretty decent season given the competition of the Premier League, Champions League football yet again. Could we though live the Champions League or the FA Cup? Well, definitely not the FA Cup, as we got knocked out to Spurs 3-1. And in the Champions League, we didn't have the greatest of league phases. We drew to Inter Milan and Atletico Madrid for beating Dynamo Kiev and Rangers as expected, and then lost to Liverpool and Bayer Leverkusen, beat Olympiacos, drew to Lazio, and it meant we finished down in 12th place in the Champions League Greek phase, meaning we were going in to the knockout playoff round. We faced up against the young boys in the first round, and we couldn't even beat them. We drew 1-1. Luckily, in the second round, we decided to turn up. Goals from Mason Mount, Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford and Taro Malacia when we were going into the round of 16 of the Champions League. But we were facing up against Liverpool, our arch rivals, and in just 22 minutes we went 1-0 down to Gonçalo Inacio, but we did have a very good game here. Garnacho found Mason Mount to make it 1-1, and Mason Mount is going to show his Manchester United career is well and truly underway, because Lindelof puts it into Bruno Fernandes. He finds a great ball through to Mason Mount, who makes it 2-1. Where if we could just hold that lead up against Liverpool, we'll be going through to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Alexis McAllister, however, had different ideas, and he takes it to extra time, where they are going to go a goal ahead. A ball in from Robertson, a header from Konate, but we have a goal for ourselves. Garnacho finds Taro Malacia down the left-hand side. He gets a ball into Rasmus Højlund, and it was back on level terms. Surely penalties were coming up. Maybe not. 105 minutes on the clock. Luis Diaz whips the ball into the backstick, and Kavica Kvaratskhelia scores for Liverpool and sends them into the quarterfinals of the Champions League, and us crashing out, meaning there is no trophies this season for Manchester United in the cheap side in Season 2. Overall, a little bit of a stinker. Where hopefully over here in the land of money, we can make a big old charge for some trophies. We did lose to Manchester City and Spurs to kick the season off, but did go on a great run of form, beating Norwich, Arsenal 3-0, Palace, Leeds and Brentford, drawing to Newcastle, beating Bournemouth and beating Brighton. We did lose 3-1 to Aston Villa, but bounced back with a 5-0 victory over Everton, a 4-1 over Chelsea and a 4-0 against West Ham. We lost to Leicester 3-2, but beat Wolves, beat Forest, and on the final day of December, beat Liverpool 2-0 with goals from Mason Mount and Benjamin Sesko. All of that while having a fantastic run in the Carabao Cup, beating Bristol, Everton, Chelsea. We did lose in the first leg of the semi-finals against Newcastle 2-0, but beat them 5-1 in the second, setting up a final at Wembley against Southampton of all sides. We had managed to get to a final, but unlucky for them, they faced up against one of the greatest sides England have ever seen. Holland got us 1-0 up before Rashford from the spot makes it 2-0 in just 13 minutes. 27 minutes on the clock, Luke Shaw finds a ball to Kobe Mainu to make it 3-0. Even if spending 700 million, he still gets in the team. Joao Neves finds Jeremy Frimpong driving on the right hand side, find Benjamin Sesko for 4-0, all in the first half. And in the second half, we wanted another goal as well. A Luke Shaw header, 5-0. The Carabao Cup was Manchester United's, already a trophy in this season. And back to the Premier League, victories over Spurs and City. Start of January were a great start. We then lose 4-2 to Norwich. What on earth is Football Manager? Before beating Palace 3-0, Leeds 6-0 and Arsenal 4-0. We beat Brentford, drew to Burnley and Bournemouth, beat Brighton, beat Villa 5-2, drew to Chelsea, beat Everton 1-0 and beat Newcastle 7-2. We beat West Ham 1-0, Leicester 5-2, Forest 1-0, Wolves 3-1, and on the final day of the season beat Liverpool 1-0. And that guaranteed us the Premier League trophy. 92 points, 29 wins, 5 draws, 4 losses. If we lost to Liverpool the final day of the season, we wouldn't have won the league. But because we did, we are champions of the Premier League. And in the terms of the top goal scorers chart, we had 2 people there. Benjamin Sesko with 24 goals, Rashford with 19, Sesko a 7.46, Rashford 7.36 in terms of average rating as well. Clean sheets, a brand new goalkeeper, Diogo Costa 20, a fantastic season, and Garnacho with 12 assists. Could we carry on this season and lift the FA Cup or the Champions League? Well, we joined the FA Cup in the third round and beat Arsenal 5-0, beat Norwich 4-0, Bournemouth 6-2, Newcastle 3-1 and Brentford 2-0 before the final up against Chelsea, which was just a 1-0 game thanks to a goal from Benjamin Sesko in 13 minutes after a mistake at the back from Chelsea, and domestic treble had come to Manchester United. Could we top that all off with a Champions League win as well? Well, we beat Leipzig, beat Porto, drew to Freiburg, lost to Salzburg and lost at Liverpool before beating Milan, Nice and Rangers, but it wasn't good enough for the league phase top 8 and we were going back in to the knockout playoff rounds. Well, we faced up against Rangers and in the first leg beat them 4-2 away from home and 4-2 at home as well, meaning 8-4 on aggregate. It was the round of 16, but guess who we were playing? Same as the cheap team, Liverpool. And we're at Old Trafford in 39 minutes, as he always does, Mohamed Salah scored. 94 minutes on the clock. We're going to be lucky enough to get a goal back thanks to Alex Grimaldo scoring a screamer. But taking things back to Anfield, the exact same as in the cheap thing, Kvaratskhelia is here at Liverpool and he scores to knock us out of the Champions League. You couldn't write it. He is our arch nemesis. And I mean, this season, goals were absolutely plentiful. 35 from Sesko in just 28 starts, while Højlund, 37 starts, 28 goals. Them two either starting the game and coming off the bench, a fantastic partnership. And if this isn't something for Manchester United to look at, this is what we need to do. Get us Benny Sesko, we'll win it all. Rashford, 24 and 17. Bruno, 19 and 18. Garnacho, 15 and 16, making that right wing position his over Jeremy Pino. Mason Mount, 11 and 16. Pino, 8 and 6, still very good. And Mainu, even with all this money spent, 7 goals and 9 assists. Absolutely fantastic. Frimpong, 15 assists. Luke Shaw, 13 and 6. The fullback were doing bits. Grimaldo, we are looking to move on from. And in terms of the team, we are looking for a brand new left back to hopefully be better than Luke Shaw, if that's even possible, and another brand new midfielder, because we're looking at Mount, Mainu and Polinia, but another midfielder to come into that trio would be fantastic. Another brand new winger to back up Marcus Rashford as well, and obviously striking positions, we're looking to improve nothing there. We are keeping Shirky, Ahmad, Rhaegar and Anselminho as part of the squad, but just as, you know, options outside of the backup 11 just purely as rotational, because money isn't a thing. We've got so much, we might as well bring some players in. Whereas over here in the cheap land, things are a lot more difficult to improve. We are still looking for that superstar centre-back to improve over Satachi or Jose Marsa and actually sit next to Martinez and be good enough. We're looking for a brand new DM to back up Manu, a brand new centre mid to rotate with Scott McTominay, and another backup striker, because as good as Obando is, we're looking for someone a little bit more age and rotational option with Højlund because of how good the expensive team has done, having two strikers that can rotate. Hopefully we can mirror that here. Well, for the first time, we are going to dip our toes into the free agent signings, and Marco Nasty is the guy I have signed. So we've got two young strikers and Rasmus Højlund. With the money we had, it was very difficult to find a striker that could properly rotate, but this guy does look very good. He is still big, he's both-footed, he's consistent, good finishing, good composure, and good pace. I still think he could be a very good option. As could Pablo Torre in midfield, as a rotation option with Bruno Fernandes, is young, extremely creative, and I'm a big fan of this guy in real life as well. But the money was all spent on Gustavo Martins, a 23-year-old Brazilian centre-back signed from Gramao, who is actually a Premier League quality player, is consistent, likes big matches, cost us £7 million, but with great jump and reach, heading, and defensive stats. I think we've finally found the partner for Martinez. And our final signing is Thiago Heligueria, a Uruguayan central defensive midfielder, and this is the sort of player which I hope we can find under Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Jason Wilcox and Dan Ashworth. This guy is 20 years of age, from Nacional over in Uruguay. Great first touch, great passing, great determination, great vision, and also extremely fast. If this guy is good in real life, hopefully we can find players like this, like the Oscar Zambrano in Ecuador. I hope we finally start to take gambles, and in the cheap side of things, that's what we've pretty much got and done. We've signed Wonderkids over in South America or in different parts of the world that could come into the team and be very good, and hopefully that's what we do in real life as well, spending a little bit more than the £50 million we've spent here. Onana is still the goalkeeper, Dalot, Martins, Martinez and Shaw is our back four, Manu, Bruno Fernandes and Mason Mount make up the midfield of Garnacho, Rashford and Højlund. There is only one change to the team that's here in real life, and that's another centre-back. By India, Wan-Bissaka, Tatachi, Marsa, Malacia, Helguera, Pablo Torre, McTominay, Yerson Chacon, Jadon Sancho and Marco Nasty make up the backup 11, with the four outside of that as Staminic, Dan Gore, Lamina Camara and Obando. I think we have a very strong squad here at Manchester United. Again, getting rid of a lot of the older wood. I'm not sure it's going to be good enough to win the Premier League, but we shall certainly try. Only if we had £350 million to spend, like the expensive lot. We're over here, I literally struggled to spend the money. Hence why I spent £76 million on Tino Livramento. He's very good, but there's no way he's worth £76 million. I wasn't really thinking about getting someone to rotate with Jeremy Frimpong. But here we are, we have to spend the money. And Theo Hernandez is the left back I brought in. We're looking at the greatest in class at United, and Theo Hernandez is certainly that. One of the best left backs we've ever seen. So good going forward. Hopefully he can come here and be brilliant as well. Florian Wirtz having a simply fantastic season at Bayer Leverkusen. He comes in, £98 million spent. I think he's going to be a great signing. Johan Bakayoko, £83 million. He has progressed so well and comes into, again, try and battle with Rashford, Yeremy Pino, Garnacho. I think is an amazing signing. And then I had to spend £41 million on a young backup goalkeeper in Bart Verbruggen. He's not going to get into the first team, but we had to spend the money. And finally is Emmanuel Aragne, just a young centre-back signed from Fulham. He's one-star ability, great potential, and he's just here to get another wonder kid in. And the team does look very, very strong. Costa in goal, Frimpong, Todibo, Martinez, Theo Hernandez, Joao Neves, Bruno Fernandes, Florian Wirtz, Garnacho, Højlund and Rashford. Verbruggen, Livramento, Branthwaite, Silva, Grimaldo, Palhinha, Manu, Mount, Pino, Bakayoko and Sesko as our backup 11 as well. The squad is ridiculous, over £1 billion spent, but are we going to be good enough to win the treble? And if that's what we wanted to do, we had to have an incredible start to the Premier League season, and that's exactly what we did. We beat Burnley, Everton, drew to Norwich and beat Spurs to a very good August. We did lose 3-2 to Manchester City, who we know are going to be our competitors this season, but battered Newcastle 5-1, beat Arsenal 3-0 and beat Bournemouth 3-1. We then went a little bit of a downturn of form. We drew to Chelsea, we lost to West Ham, we beat Villa, we lost to Leeds and we lost to Southampton, and in December we actually turned things around. We did lose to Manchester City, but we beat Forest, we beat Liverpool, we beat Ipswich, we beat Palace, we beat Hull, and we beat Leicester. But 4 losses in the first half of the season is probably what we needed for the whole of the season. And we can't even blame the Carabao Cup either, because we were knocked out in the 4th round on penalties by Brentford. Luckily, that's not part of the treble. That's a treble, so it doesn't really matter. But with our Premier League form, we had to turn things around if that was even a realistic goal. We lost to Everton at the start of January, beating Burnley, Norwich, Spurs 6-1, Newcastle, Arsenal 2-1, losing to Newcastle, beating Bournemouth, losing to West Ham, beating Chelsea, losing to Aston Villa. There's too many losses. We beat Leeds, we drew to Southampton, we drew to Liverpool, we drew to Leicester, and we also beat Forest, beat Ipswich, beat Palace, and beat Hull. But it wasn't enough to win the Premier League. Manchester City absolutely ran away with it this season on 91 points. We come second on 77, but the treble wasn't going to be happening this season, and we spent over £1 billion. The only way we can get this as a semi-successful season is winning the FA Cup and the Champions League. Winning the FA Cup, we beat Norwich, we beat Hull 8-1, we beat Aston Villa, and lost to Southampton in the quarterfinals. So it's not successful, even if we win the Champions League, in my opinion. And we were, of course, going to give this a very good go. We beat Ludogorets 4-1, we drew to Barcelona, beat AC Milan, lost to Salzburg and PSG, beat Feyenoord, beat Stuttgart, and beat Rangers 8-2 to sneak in to the top 8, meaning we were straight in to the round of 16. We were drawn against Bayern Munich. We beat them 3-1 at the Allianz Arena and 2-1 at Old Trafford, thanks to goals from Benjamin Sesko and Alejandro Garnacho. Quarterfinals, Liverpool. And we all know what's happened previously, but hopefully today we can right them wrongs. Frimpong finds a ball into the box and it falls into Højlund to make it 1-0. And we are going to grab a second in the 65th minute as well. Florian Wirtz finds the area Pino, who beats his man and fires it into the bottom corner to make it 2-0. And of course, Liverpool are going to get a goal back, but it doesn't come until the last minute. And of course, it's going to be Mohamed Salah as well, but it was all to do at Old Trafford, where if we don't lose, we are in a Champions League semi-final. So Diego Dalot found Florian Wirtz to find Benjamin Sesko to make it 1-0 and give us a 2-goal buffer, which was much needed because Kai Havertz for Liverpool did score and made it 3-2 in aggregate, but that was that. And the semi-finals are up next. We beat Bayern Munich, we've beat Liverpool. How about Real Madrid? Well, in the first leg at Old Trafford, we were absolutely fantastic. Jeremy Frimpong got us 1-0 up with a long-range effort, firing past Thibaut Courtois in 32 minutes. For Alejandro Garnacho showed exactly why he is still in this team, even after spending $1 billion, finding Johan Bakayoko at the back stick to make it 2-0, and then a great bit of build-up play with Bakayoko getting fouled. Livramento finds Wirtz. Wirtz, our £98 million signing, makes it 3-0. We had to go away to the Bernabeu, and as long as we didn't lose by 3, the Champions League final was up next. And well, we did lose by 2 thanks to a 95th minute Mason Mount goal, securing us a Champions League final. And the drama didn't stop there either, because after beating Bayern Munich, Liverpool and Real Madrid, Barcelona were in the final against us, and a goal from Benjamin Sesko in the 59th minute made it 1-0 before Theo Hernandez on the left-hand side found Florian Wirtz, found Rashford, found a screamer from Bruno to make it 2-0. But Barcelona had a response full of Wonderkids. Lamine Yamal drives down the right-hand side. He gets the byline, finds Pepe at the back stick to make it 2-1. How was this game going to go? It was going to fall to Manchester United. Frimpong found Pino at the back stick, finds Rashford, 3-1, and we do win the Champions League. So in the final season, after spending over £1 billion, second in the Premier League, the Champions League, we didn't win the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup. We did last season win the Premier League, the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup, and the season before that won the Carabao Cup and the Europa League. So trophies have come back to the red side of Manchester, but maybe not at the rate we would have expected. And to show you how much money we have spent, 234 million, 186 million, 335 million and 265 million over the course of the 4 seasons, simply spending just over £1 billion. And this is the squad we have created. It is very good. We have had some very good results, but after £1 billion spent, I would have expected a treble. Does it just make Fergie's treble look even better? Very possibly. If you guys do want to pick this save up on Patreon, you can do. It is available down there, £5 a month, but it helps support me any way you can. There is legends running down the screen right now, and them guys are supported on Patreon. They help out so much, and if you want to be one of them, make sure to head down to the link below. You can pick up the expensive end of season 3 rebuild down there, but also the cheap rebuild as well. If you want a Manchester United, which is pretty much debt clear, we can get into that and show you how season 3 went to see if you want to go over on Patreon and sign up over there. Well, based on how the expensive team got on, I'm thinking a Premier League trophy and potentially a Carabao Cup or FA Cup makes this extremely successful, because we would have cleared the debt at the club, would have built a team full of Wonderkids, and would have only spent £50 million. We got off to a simply brilliant start. We beat Southampton, West Ham, Everton, and then beat Fulham 7-0 before beating Arsenal 1-0, beating Sunderland 6-0, and drawing 1-1 to Manchester City. We carried on this unbeaten run, beating Newcastle, drawing to Leeds and Wolves, beating Aston Villa, beating Leicester, and beating Forest before a pretty topsy-turvy December, losing games against Brentford and Spurs, drawing against Liverpool and Arsenal, but beating Bournemouth, Chelsea, and an emphatic 6-0 against Crystal Palace. Just 2 losses in the first half of the season, potentially too many draws, but it was certainly a good start. And that was all having a fantastic run in the Carabao Cup as well, beating Millwall 4-0, Bournemouth 5-1, Liverpool 4-3 in the quarterfinals, a double-legged victory over Leeds, winning 2-1 and 3-1 to have a final against Chelsea. Where after just 3 minutes, they took the lead thanks to a Fofana header at the back post, but before the first half could finish, Tyrell Malacia found Rashford, who found Højlund a great spin in the box to make it 1-1. The tie was in the balance, but Chelsea took the lead. Chilwell found the backstick cross, and Ousmane Diomande was there to make it 2-1, and Chelsea made it 3. Christopher Nkunku found Mudryk, who found Nkunku. He made it 3-1. And that was that. Sadly, the Carabao Cup wasn't going to be coming back to Manchester United, but a very decent showing, and I think we must win the Premier League. Or will we? Because to January, 2 wins and 2 losses. February, a 4-1 battering against Manchester City, a 2-0 draw against Newcastle, but winning 5-1 and 3-1 against Everton and Wolves, a 6-3 loss to Aston Villa. Things weren't looking convincing. We would have had to have gone on a fantastic run to the end of the season. So that's what we did. We beat Leeds 1-0, Leicester 3-1, drew 3-0 with Forest, beat Brentford 1-0, Bournemouth 5-2, Liverpool 4-0, Chelsea 2-0, Spurs 2-0, and Crystal Palace 3-0. So that we won the Premier League by 1 singular point. 80 points, a 55 goal difference, 24 wins, 8 draws and 6 losses. Spurs 8 points behind on 79, Arsenal 2 points behind on 78, Manchester City 5 points behind on 75. Another incredibly tight title race, but we have won the Premier League. And I did mention earlier on, that is while clearing all of the debt at the club as well. So a Premier League trophy back at Manchester United while clearing all of the debt and spending just £37 million. An absolutely incredible rebuild, and there's potentially a Champions League and FA Cup still coming. Well, that was the hope at least, because in the FA Cup we got knocked out by Liverpool in the 4th round. But in the Champions League, the league phase went incredibly well. We beat Real Madrid, Borussia Dortmund, Basel, Chelsea, Sevilla. We lost to Copenhagen and AC Milan and drew to Lazio. But in the league phase, it got us in 9th place. 1 goal difference away from getting into that top 8. And of course, it was just our luck that it was Manchester City who were playing in the round of 16, well, the knockout playoff round, and they're still quite good. Jeremy Doku made it 1-0 in 5 minutes before a Lindelof error to Dalot meant Doku could capitalise on an awful defensive mistake. He found Erling Haaland, and it was 2-0 in 57. This was the away leg, so there was still a chance. But Doku wanted to make it, he found Haaland, who did make it 3. And then we do finally get a goal back at the very end of the second half. Marco Nasti found Staminic, who found Bruno Fernandes, who found Jadon Sancho to get a goal back. And at Old Trafford, in just 53 minutes, we did get another goal back to make it a 1-goal affair with a Yersin Shakon goal. But that was the only goal of the game, and we lost 3-2 to Manchester City, and we're out in the Champions League knockout playoff round, which is absolutely gutting. But I will say, a very successful rebuild over here on the cheap side of things. I actually think it's a better rebuild, given the fact we've cleared the debt, we've brought in some fantastic Wonderkids, and we've still won the Premier League. I think things have gone quite well. And when you look at the squad as well, Højlund 26 goals, Rashford 24 and 13. We revitalised Jadon Sancho with 17 goals and 10 assists. Bruno Fernandes 15 and 20. McTominay still 10 goals and an assist. Yerson Chacon £1 million, 9 goals, 7 assists. Mason Mount 9 and 6. Garnacho 7 and 9. And Kobe Mainoo as well has become an absolute superstar. 15 caps for England with 2 goals. Got a goal and 3 assists in this rebuild as well in this final season. A simply fantastic rebuild. I hope you enjoyed a cheap versus expensive Manchester United rebuild. If you didn't know, there is another one just down there. It's West Ham United. Make sure you go and watch that one, like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll speak to you next time.